Indirectly. We didn't do the install apartment building, multi-story apartment building in Lake Havasu, Arizona, but we did a lot of remodel work in this building. So we were attached to this building on certain levels as a contractor. We didn't do the original install. And then it's a smaller community, and the headline in the paper was Fire Sprinkler Saves Man's Life at this apartment building. So I was in business at that time, had my own contracting company, and cut that out of the newspaper back when we printed newspapers, put it up on the board where everybody could see it. Next company meeting highlighted that fact, like, this is what we do. We install sprinklers, potential to save lives.
This is episode 83 of the Fire Protection Podcast, powered by InspectPoint. Today, my guest is Rob Stewart from Fire Tech Productions. Fire Tech is one of the leaders in fire protection training, both from the sprinkler, the alarm, and the suppression side of the industry throughout North America, mainly the U.S., and they have a lot of, obviously, online and in-person classes. So Rob's got a wealth of knowledge, owned his own company. It was great to talk to him. He's the training director there. And we just talked about just training within fire protection in general, how technology is helping training in some of those platforms, but also just, hey, what are the needs of technicians and even back office personnel that the contractors are running into. So great to talk to Rob. Love to have Fire Tech on. It's their second time on, and loved what they're doing for the industry. It's fun. It's funny, this streaming podcast service just popped up a software update. They're like, oh, do you want to upgrade? I'm like, oh man.
Perfect timing.
Yeah, perfect timing. We do that sometimes in our product, and it gets your attention at least.
Yeah, it does. What do I do here? Oh no.
Yeah, right.
Do I wait?
Well, the funny part is, like, you can do a lot of marketing, and podcast is a way to do it, email blasts, social media, all that. But if you're using a tool every day and you're like, oh, you want to see this new feature? Click here to learn more. Like, it's right in front of you, right? So
right. Yeah.
I wouldn't have read one of this podcast studio's emails, right? So they put it in front of me.
Right.
Anyway, how's your day going, Rob?
It's going good. Work is easy for me now.
Yeah.
Working at Fire Tech, because I get to do what I like to do. So, and that's focusing on the fun stuff of the industry, as opposed to, what I did forever and a day was contracting, right? In the contracting world, that can be high stress. You got a lot of good days, but got to keep the customers happy and the operation moving. That can be a challenge. Yeah.
It depends on how good a month you're having, right?
Right. How cranky the customers are.
Right.
How well the techs are doing. Just a lot of stuff there. But
right.
now my world revolves around this, is just focusing on the training aspect.
Did you ever run into your career where you were doing, whether it was something that you designed under the construction side or something on the inspection and testing side? Did you ever have an incident where there was a fire or some type of incident at one of those facilities that you were involved with?
Indirectly.
Yeah.
We didn't do the install on an apartment building, multi-story apartment building in Lake Havasu, Arizona.
Okay.
But we did a lot of remodel work in this building. So we were attached to this building on certain levels as a contractor. We didn't do the original install. And then it's a smaller community, and the headline in the paper was Fire Sprinkler Saves Man's Life at this apartment building.
Wow.
So I was in business at that time, had my own contracting company, and cut that out of the newspaper back when we printed newspapers.
Yeah.
Put it up on the board where everybody could see it. Next company meeting highlighted that fact, like, this is what we do. We install sprinklers, potential to save lives. Because most, if you're hanging a pipe every day, sometimes you just think about the pipe and you don't necessarily think about the end results. And so
right.
that was a nice example, very local, very personable, like, yeah, what we do matters.
That's great.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, you don't see a lot of the sprinkler saves. You see the negative sides because of the media and whatever. whatever's going to jump out at people.
Right. You know, you mentioned that, and I now live in Ann Arbor, Michigan, so we have a lot university town, and we have a lot of apartment buildings. A lot of apartment buildings aren't sprinklered.
Mm-hmm.
Quite a few are, just depending on when they were built, right? And there was a recent occurrence where the sprinkler system contained the fire to one unit so that the entire apartment building wasn't displaced, right? That becomes, I think that's a highly overlooked thing in our industry. Not in our industry. Our industry appreciates it, but in society, you think about an apartment building, and if it's unsprinklered, everybody out of that apartment building more than likely is going to have to relocate, at least for some period of time.
Right.
But when you have one sprinkler head, controlling that fire in that kitchen, yeah, that one unit needs to get some work and maybe a couple units next to it. But most people are just going to go home, and that I think that doesn't get mentioned enough.
That's a good point, right? It's you're everybody says saving lives, which is happening, but it's also saving lives in a different way. It's like you're not affecting the lives, and if you're displaced for 6 months to a year or fully, right? That's a big dramatic change in your life.
Especially in the housing market, the way the housing market is now, we see those headlines, right? It's not easy people to just relocate, move down the street, and find a place. Their lives get turned upside down by fire, and so that's just one of the side benefits of sprinklers.
Yeah. Well, I guess for the podcasts, I've known you for a little bit here, known Fire Tech for I don't know, 5 or so years when I had Lisa and I think Tom Cranion on way back.
It's going back a few years, I think.
Yeah. So I guess what's your background and what do you currently do?
So my background is I'm a sprinkler fitter at heart. So in 1993, I started fitting sprinkler pipe. How did I start that? I grew up around construction. My dad was a plumbing electrical contractor. I was in my early 20s, went to work for a plumbing contractor. Why? Because I was young and married. I needed a job, right? That's just life.
Mm-hmm.
I'm working for this plumbing contractor. He comes up to me and, Rob, I want you to be my fire sprinkler guy. My question was, do I get 40 hours a week? Darren said, yes. I said, that's fine with me. So here I was. I started my fire sprinkler career.
Wow.
And from there, we did that. I started fitting pipe, sprinkler pipe, started learning about fire sprinklers, a slow process. Mm-hmm. And then 5 years later, he comes to me and says, I don't want to be in the sprinkler business anymore. I want you to buy the sprinkler business. I said, Darren, I don't have two nickels to rub together. I mean, I'm doing okay, but I don't got money to buy a business. Mm-hmm. We worked out a deal. Good guy, Darren Craig, out there in Lake Havasu. We worked out a deal, and when I got my contractor's license, and I was in business as a fire sprinkler contractor, Craig Fire Protection.
Yeah.
So I was a fire sprinkler contractor until I sold the business there in Lake Havasu City, Arizona in 2015. And then as a family, we relocated to Michigan in 2016.
Great.
Went to work for a couple of different companies out here. Got connected with Fire Tech. I started out as a part-time instructor. Mm-hmm. And then in March of last year, I came on full-time as the training director.
That's great.
So every day when I wake up on work days, my thoughts go to how can I help the industry by training, through training. Yeah. So that's my focus. That's my fun. And it's really also my passion.
Yeah, I know there's a big need for it. There always has been, but codes are getting more complicated. Well, not more complicated, but they're always changing.
Always changing.
And the industry is changing a little bit. And the need for labor obviously is out there. But with that need for labor, younger labor force need to educate them, right?
Yes.
And do you find similarly, are the students coming through those classes, is it a different demographic than it used to be, like 15 years ago, right? Is it younger? Is it, you know?
I think the fire protection industry as a whole might be a little unique that way, because of the work that we do. Everybody wants to make sure they're on top of their game. The majority, the key players inside, your go-to techs, they appreciate that it's the continuing education aspect. So we'll hold like a sprinkler workshop. The in-person sprinkler workshop, and we'll get somebody in there that's got 3 months experience. They're brand new. They are very green. And then we'll also have an individual that's got 15 or 20 years in that workshop. They've got a lot of knowledge, but they wanted to come to this workshop to get a few good reminders, look inside NFPA and get reminded about maybe some of the things that they've missed and try to learn a few things. So we get a wide variety, but I think the majority of our students are on the younger side, on the experience side.
Yep. Well, it's good, right? It's where it's mostly needed.
Yeah. So we continue to, offer that. I think what a lot of companies that we're working with right now are doing is they're looking at trying to combine the learning, whether it be a combination of online, in-person, hands-on. And we refer to that internally as learning paths. So that's another key component. A lot of companies are looking at it from different angles. I mean, that's the fire protection industry, right? We're all unique, but we're all trying to get to the same place.
Yeah. Yep. When you guys are, when you have a class, right? Is the demand coming? What subsector is it coming from? Is it coming from the alarm side? Is it coming from sprinkler side? Is it like a cross blend of our technicians and fitters? Are they trying to learn the other sides of fire protection?
Yeah, that's a really interesting question, Drew. Because I just had this conversation with a couple of different people, because I think that is cross-training, right? Can you cross-train between the alarm and the sprinkler? Now, coming from the sprinkler side, when I'd go out on inspections, my biggest headache as a sprinkler tech is trying to get off the site and making sure that an alarm panel had reset, right?
Yeah.
Make sure all the tampers had cleared, make sure there was no signals. And my biggest headache, especially on a Friday afternoon, was having to call the alarm company and have them send out a tech because I couldn't get the thing to clear off and I can't leave the site, right? You can't, you just can't walk away. That's the way I was trained. You just don't leave things, impaired is the correct terminology. So a lot of companies are looking at cross-training their people. They want those unicorns, so to speak, in the industry, where they can do sprinkler and they can do alarm, but they're completely two different trades, right? And so that is a challenge. From our perspective, we see a few more sprinkler technicians willing to jump into that alarm side. Coming back the other way, can't speak for all alarm technicians, but they're a little bit more hesitant to mess with the water stuff.
Yeah.
And that's fair. I mean, we all have our own trade, but we're so interconnected on everything anymore, especially as technology has grown over time.
Right.
You think about the deluge systems and the pre-action systems. And then this remote monitoring stuff that's in the standard now that is going to be coming online. We do need to get to that point where especially our inspection technicians, have that ability to go back and forth between the two. We see that growing, but that's not an easy place to get to.
Yeah, I think the technology is definitely putting it in front of them more, right? Even with our platform, if you're doing an inspection, you're going to see pretty much every if you have a contract for those different systems, you're going to see everything. So, from a documentation point of view and just the systems and assets, you're going to see that. It's conducting those tests on those panels or conducting a main drain test, right? If you are a fire alarm tech. Obviously, you need licensing depending on your state,
Yes,
whatever,
certifications, all that good stuff.
depending on where you're at. But, and that's what you guys can do, right? You can give that. Now, you guys do suppression, alarm, sprinkler. Do you do anything? I guess what other, is there any other sectors you're in?
So anything related to sprinkler, including pumps.
Okay.
And then we get to the alarm side.
Yep.
We have quite a few introductions to the different courses, and I think our intro courses, especially our online course, I mentioned like Learning Pass. So we have so many people that we work with that are part of the operation in a fire protection company. We've just been talking about the techs, right? The inspection techs.
Right.
You've got the service techs, you've got the install team for each discipline. But then you've got the people in the office. You got your admins that are taking the calls, talking to the customers, getting the things set up, talking to the technicians. They need to be trained to understand, and that's where a lot of these intro courses are good for people that are brand new to the industry, that we're going to train to be techs, but also the people in the office that are talking to the customers, talking to the techs, going through these intro courses so that they understand, the basics of the different systems. Then we get to the back of the office, and then you've got your service estimators, right? Your estimators, people that are ordering parts from the supply houses. You got all these different components inside a company, and if somebody is a little light on their education or training, then things can go south pretty quick, right?
Yeah.
At least internally.
Yeah, I think the back office really matter. We always say, and spec point, it's you have 1 and 1A, right? We created the solution. One is the technician or the field team, right?
Yes.
They're the ones doing the work. That's like boots on the ground, right? We always say 1A, right? And 1A is the back office, because the flow after it leaves the technician, whether it's install or service or inspection, it's going through that back office. So there needs to be an understanding. There's not as much certification need, right? There's always there. So I think, and we've educated our team, because we've created this software platform, right? So when you're talking to us, we've been on site doing fire pump tests, doing extinguisher monthlies and annuals, right? So when you're talking, you need to know the fire aspect, right?
Yes.
Especially on the contractor side, because you have customers calling in or technicians asking questions a lot of times. So I think those 101 or 201 even, right, is super helpful to get some introductions to just new blood in the industry.
Yeah, absolutely. And then the aspect that you're touching on it is the individual in the office that's reviewing the inspection reports as they come across. We may have an inspector out there, maybe doing really great on wets, get involved in dry, starting to understand those, doing those inspections. But that individual reviewing the inspection report is sort of the critical piece of the component, because they're there to catch, what doesn't look right, sort of reading between the lines. And a lot of them are quoting the deficiencies, right? So how do we address this deficiency, and how important is this deficiency to get addressed? Right now, is it a critical deficiency? Is it a non-critical, or do we have an impairment situation with this system? That the office plays a real key role in identifying and taking care of the customer at the end of the day, and making sure that everything's right. Yeah. It's sort of a pressure point inside the organization.
I'm a little ahead of myself here, but wait till you see what we got coming out this fall.
Okay.
to even enhance that touch
And
point.
I didn't know he was going to go here, but
Yeah.
but that's
I
just a root.
can't talk about it yet, right?
I
Um,
guess you call that a teaser.
yeah, teaser. It'll be coming out soon,
Right on.
or multiple things. Yeah, but you're right. Those are critical. Those that is that 1 and 1A,
Yeah.
and I think getting the education there is super important. The codes are, I don't want to say more, like I said, they're not more complicated, but some of the jurisdictional requirements are getting more complicated, in my opinion.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It goes back to that AHJ discussion, right?
Hmm.
I mean, that was my very first training that I received. I sat in an NFPA 13 3-day class. And the biggest thing I took out, I remember from that class, and I still share this when I teach, is the discussion about the AHJ. That individual is the authority, or that office is
Hmm.
going to make the decisions. And you can have conversations with them. You've got to respect them. You've got to, but at the end of the day, they're gonna they're gonna dictate
Yep.
how we're going to do things.
Yep.
And sometimes we agree, sometimes we disagree, sometimes we don't see it the way they see it. But that's one of the challenges of the industry we live in, right? And then
Yep.
people like you got to adjust your software to that
Right.
jurisdiction, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Or jurisdictions, right? It could be a
Jurisdictions,
fire
yes.
marshal, could
Yep,
be an insurer, could be a, the
absolutely.
joint commission stuff, which is it's its own thing, which is changing again on the 1st of next year. So that should be fun.
And so that's an interesting thing too. You get into these medical facilities, right? These hospitals,
Yeah.
hospital systems, and they live in their own, for lack of a better term, they live in their own world, right? As far
Hmm.
as getting the documentation done. Sometimes you, as a contractor, you think the documentation's almost more important than the inspections themselves, but that's
Yeah.
not true, right?
Right.
But it's just the nature of the world we live in.
Right.
With some organizations, got to get that
Yeah. It's
document
where the fundings and,
right.
regulations coming in. So if those reports aren't clean,
Right. It's a big deal.
it is a big deal, and they're changing. So it's there's always constant change, right, within
Yeah.
the codes. So
3-year cycle, right?
yeah, how do you train on that? How do you train? I mean, you guys probably go to the latest, but
We try to keep up, and to be honest with you, that is inside Fire Tech. We have a team of people that we're trying to update our content as NFPA is releasing the new standards.
mhm,
Our benchmark is we try to keep up. We keep up with what NICET is testing too. So that keeps us on the forefront. So like for example, inspection testing water-based systems, we just updated to NFPA 25/2023.
mhm,
That's what NICET's now testing too. But we still have all of our content going back, and so that allows us to keep in front. So if somebody's still working according to 2017, they can come in and they can take that course based on that standard. So I
sure,
think that's one of the cool things, or the good things about our product is, we're on that cycle too. We're updating, but if you're still, there's some jurisdictions that are way behind, right?
yep,
So if you just want to review that content based on those standards, we can get that for you, because if we've already created it. Sometimes we archive it and we got to pull it back out of the archives on a request because it's
yeah,
so old. But that's the nature of the industry we're in, right?
yeah,
You know,
yeah,
things are
or
different.
understand the differences.
Yeah,
Yeah,
things are
between
different
the two.
in on the West Coast as to different parts of the East Coast, and you get to the middle. It varies from state to state, county to county, city to city.
Yeah, yeah. So do you guys train any California companies?
We do. I mean, we train
Impressive.
across the country.
Yep.
California is a little different because they've adopted their own
All right.
uh, version of NFPA 25.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Not sure exactly when they're going to go ahead and update that and get that adjusted. But California is a good example of how our industry varies, right? I
Right.
mean, just they may be out on the one end, out there on the West Coast, and then everybody else seems to be at someplace else. So, yeah, the variation is challenging.
Sure.
I've spent a little bit of time reviewing their standard, and they've added some very specific things that apply to California. Some of that seismic stuff, they want to make sure
Yeah,
that
yeah.
that they got that under control. Understandably, um, and there's certain things that they apply that most of the country, won't apply to. So
Right.
it's sort of
Yeah, they have
regional, right?
they have all their AES forms, right? Which
Yes.
is kind of form based, which is it's a little behind the times, in my opinion. Is the form? I know it's a standardized documentation, right? But you want the data coming out of there, and I feel like the form is kind of hindered California a little bit, just from now. What they have done is, Compliance Engine and some of the others have gone into California pretty successfully, and they're able to aggregate all that data from those forms. So before then, it was just this form. It was just a flat file sitting out there, right? And you really couldn't do much with it. So, and that's the problem with forms. It's not as dynamic as, and you can't run analytics on a form easy,
No, and I agree with you 100% on that. Is if you've got a building that's 25 years old, for example, from a sprinkler test,
Mm-hmm.
and everything is documented on forms, it's just stuffed in a file someplace. I mean,
Yeah.
like I said, I started back in 1993, and so my first inspections that we did were on the 3-copy forms, where you wrote on the top and it bled through to the other two. You gave the top copy to the customer. One copy goes in the file someplace in the office, and the other copy was supposed to go to the AHJ. Right. So that's the world I started in. But again, that documentation just ended up, unless you were scanning them in and creating a PDF and creating files, and most companies didn't have that kind of manpower to do those kind of things. They just sat. But I think you think about truly doing our job from a sprinkler inspection, and one of the concerns is the quality of the infrastructure of this country. Right,
Mm-hmm.
it's getting older, starting to be impacted. What does that main drain test tell you today? It doesn't tell me a whole lot today. I need to go look at the data to understand if the water supply has truly changed.
Yeah.
Right. So if it's stuck in a file someplace, it's a piece of paper. I'm not going to
Right.
be able to go find that.
Yeah.
But
even if it's a digital form, even if it's a PDF, it's in a file somewhere.
Yes.
Right?
Where do I go to find that? Where in SharePoint do I track that down?
Right.
But I think that is one of the big advantages. The way we're doing inspections now is it's very easy to see what this system is doing over the last 5 years. Right. You can pull that. What was my main drain test results 5 years ago, 10 years ago? Now you can compare that, and the people in the back office can say, "Oh, we might have an issue here that we need to look at," or this isn't meeting the standard.
Right.
The water supply has changed. We need to address this. So there's real value in that data.
Yep. Yeah, and the analytics that can be run against it. It's definitely on the historic side. So, when you guys go into, when you train a company or a class or whatever, are you 50-50 mix of in-house versus online? Or I guess what's the best approach for different size companies? If you have recommendations for, owner operated, larger, and then really in the middle, what is a decent plan for training?
I think the best way as a company is to create a plan for training. What do we want to do? And so some of the companies that we're working with, they have like team portals on our website, so they have access to the courses that they want their people to have. A lot of them have created and worked with us, and we've created learning paths where they start here, and then they incorporate for some of their technicians, depending on the path that they're on. Do I want them to go to a sprinkler class? Do I want them to go to a fire pump testing class, fire pump maintenance class? Do I want them to take the basic fire alarm workshop? Or do I want to send them to an inspection and testing fire alarm workshop? So there's options there. I think from my perspective, when I talk to owners and managers, what does your team need? Analyze what your team needs, and then go from there. For some companies, NICET is a priority. Why? Because in order for them to do inspections in a certain jurisdiction, they need to have that NICET certification. You go to a different state, NICET would be nice to have. It's a good certification to have, but it's not exactly our priority. I want to make sure my technicians are doing it the right way. So, it depends on where you're at, what your goals are, what your needs are at. I think as an industry, everybody's approached training a little bit differently. And that's great, because that's the beauty of our industry, right? We're as long as we meet codes and standards, we're doing okay. But how we get there is sort of up to us. And so I think that's one of the things that we've really developed at Fire Tech is the ability to work one-on-one with the customers to provide what they want,
what they need. Right.
Yeah.
Even at the small level, right?
Even at the small, to be honest with you, probably half of our business is the small companies. It's very, and obviously we work with plenty of larger companies too, but we have that industry mix. I mean, just like you go into a new market, if you were to go into, you're going to find your big companies, and then you're going to have your bunch of, your mom and pops, right? And everybody's trying to do the same thing and trying to do it right.
Yeah.
I think one of the advantages the bigger companies have right now, from a training point of view, is once they prioritize training, they're able to dedicate the resources to it. And I think mom and pop companies right now, it's harder for them to create that training budget, so to speak.
Sure.
A lot of training is done on the fly. I say that because I lived that life as a sprinkler contractor, right? I thought I was training my people well. And as I look back upon it, I did okay, but I didn't really have a training plan. It was just sort of hit and miss. And so, if you can create a plan, create goals, at least that gives you something to work towards.
Well, I think even, from back when you were doing it, on your own, I think the advent of online, I know in person's by far the best, but if you're that smaller company, you can still get access to some pretty good, way better than you used to be able to. So,
absolutely,
utilizing that, and then creating a plan once a year, once every 2 years, do in person, right? And have select goals for that. But it'd be interesting to be able to tie some ROI back to training, right? If they're, whether it's them knowing deficiencies better or being more efficient in install or troubleshooting a panel, right? I think, one service call could essentially pay for that training for a full year, right?
Absolutely.
With that knowledge. And it'd be interesting to tie that back to because of that training.
Yeah. Well, I think the easy illustration, at least from my perspective, is like our in-person fire pump courses. As an industry, we understand the testing and inspection of fire pumps. We can go out and do the flow test, record all the data, right? but fire pumps are highly mechanical. You get into a fire pump room, and there are components that need to be, well, first of all, we're doing the inspection. We're going to test them. But the big thing, and where our return on investment truly is the maintenance items.
Yeah.
And for a long time, we as sprinkler contractors, whenever we had a maintenance issue in the fire pump room, we'd call the pump company or a pump rep to come out and take care of that. But what a lot of companies are learning and figuring out is if I send my people and get trained to do this, I keep that service dollars in company.
Right.
I send 2 techs out and they spend a whole day doing a repack on a pump. You guys do you service managers do those numbers in your heads right now. And what is your return on, what did you just charge that customer for that one day? And then what is this fire pump maintenance class costing you? Compare the two. How many repumps, repacks do you need to do internally to recoup the cost of that training? And now think about it. Every time that tech goes out and he does a repack or he does some sort of repair where he pulls that pump apart for the next 10 years, and he's gaining experience and knowledge every time he does one of those.
Oh, yeah.
And he's getting better. Think about that, $3,000 or $4,000 total investment in that individual and what he's going to give to you company-wise.
Right.
Funny story. Quick funny story. One of our instructors, Kevin Kozlowskis out of the Northeast, he came to our fire pump maintenance master class, and he's working for a contractor. And he went through that class, and he realized, I really enjoy this. I really like this. And he went out and started his own fire pump maintenance company.
That's great.
Kevin's one of our great instructors. He teaches for us, 4 or 5 times a year. But his story, what he learned is really just sort of what's his return on investment. I don't even know if you can put a percentage to that on that one. So, we say as society, we say knowledge is power, but knowledge and experience inside the fire protection industry is ROI.
Yeah. No, you're right. I mean, what's a repack? $2,000? Service?
Easy.
Yeah. Easy.
I mean,
and you're probably 60 to 70% margin there.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. You're getting your labor rates, your service labor rates, and your markup on your materials. As we're talking and people are listening, these service managers, these company owners are just starting to salivate when they start to think about that, right?
Yeah. Wow. That's why the focus has been on fire, the last 10 years is, but education makes it even more powerful, right?
Right. So. How do I would say in some respects, I think that we are in the golden age of the fire protection industry. Because for a long time, all we did was install, right? We just installed. That's how I started out. It was all install focus. Well, the codes and the standards have changed to the point where the focus now is on inspection, testing, and maintenance. And that's where, that's why we have private equity coming in and getting involved in that because they see the recurring revenue. But really, when we think about it from an industry point of view, we've installed all these systems. Now we need to take care of them to make sure they're going to do what they're going to do.
Right. I think the codes and standards have always really been there. What I think what's happening is the recurring revenue and the AHJ's kind
enforcement,
of
right?
Enforcement, right?
Yes,
and
yes.
it's all this enforcement, and I know it's troublesome getting this data over to the AHJ, whether it's through Compliance Engine, Live, iRoll, whatever it is, or something internal. Right. There's some trouble getting that over, and they're stepping into the thing is there's more compliance and buildings are safer. Right.
Yes.
And there's more money to be made. So I think that's some of it. And, if you can get that stickiness of a customer, they're going to come back to you for an install or a service call if you're treating them correctly. So
Right. Well, I think one of the in our country, a lot of people, owners may push back on, do we need to do so much ITM? And I think you look at the news, and if you pay attention to the news, especially the international news, you see too many bad fire things happen, right? And why is that? Because they haven't refined their codes to the point that we have, and they're not following through on the enforcement aspect, the ITM, making sure that we dot our I's and cross our T's when it comes to life safety systems.
Yep.
It's not perfect here, but I think, overall as an industry, we're a little bit ahead of the curve when we compare ourselves to a lot of places. I'm not saying we're perfect, but we've made a lot of headway here in the last 30 years from from what I see.
Yeah, no, I agree. It is, it's exciting times, and I'm excited to partner with Fire Tech on some things, and
Absolutely.
Yeah, looking forward to continuing this. One random question. You're out of Lake Havasu, right?
Yes.
Now, do you go back?
So in the last 2 years, me and my wife took a little trip back, not this past year, but in February, and that was beautiful. That was just, especially living in Michigan, right? Get out to sunny Lake Havasu in February for a few days, visit friends and family. Just gorgeous. But NFPA was in Vegas this year, so I was there, and I went down a couple days early to visit my brother and some friends down Lake Havasu in June. And when I got in the car to leave on the Sunday afternoon drive back up to Vegas, the temperature gauge on the car said 116, and it's like, this is why I ain't here. I don't want to be here in June or July or August or September, because it's just too hot. As a fitter, I sweat a lot out there.
Yeah. And as a trainer, I'm sure you'd be sweating a lot too.
Yeah, but November, December, January, February, and into March, it's perfect. It's beautiful. I love it out there. But I love the summers in Michigan right now, so I try not to get out of that.
Pros and cons.
Right.
Well, Rob, this has been great chatting.
Appreciate it, Drew.
I guess where can people find you, and where can people find Fire Tech?
Well, if anybody's on LinkedIn, just look up Rob Stewart. Try to share knowledge about fire sprinkler systems on that. But rob@firetech.com is my email, and then just Google Fire Tech, and you'll find us. So reach out. You've got training questions, reach out to me. We'll talk about it. We'll put together a plan for you and help you out.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate the time today, and look forward to seeing you soon.
Okay. Thanks, Drew.
All right. Take care. This has been episode 83 of the Fire Protection Podcast, powered by InspectPoint. I want to thank Rob again for coming on the podcast and really jumping into everything training within the fire protection industry, and excited to see what they're doing and, how we're partnered together. So, thanks again for listening, and we'll see you again soon. Take care.